Hello once again, this is Jeff Scott of Blackhawk Technical College. One more time, I am retaping the lectures for each of the 12 chapters for our book, Joomla 3 Beginner's Guide, and I've gone through so far just chapters 1 and 2. And remember, in chapter 1 we just looked at what a content management system was and looked at a couple examples of Joomla. And in chapter 2 we actually installed Joomla, so I did a reinstall. Now we're into chapter 3, which starts on, I believe, around page 39, something like that. And first steps, getting to know Joomla. Okay. So as it says in this chapter, we'll get acquainted with the way Joomla builds and maintains websites. We'll explore the user interface. We'll examine the example website that we installed, and we'll get our feet wet by doing some simple, fairly common administrative tasks. All right. A little bit longer chapter than the one that we looked at the other day. So as we get into it, again, the author says, before we explore the example site you installed in a previous chapter, let's take a look at what's so different about Joomla. In the past, when people have created web pages, and many people still do, all right, the idea was that you created, for every web page, there was a good chance you would create at least 2 web pages and maybe 3. One that would hold your HTML, one that would hold your JavaScript, and one that would hold your CSS. Again, the HTML would hold the content of the web page. The JavaScript would hold the logic of the web page, and the CSS would hold the presentation information for the web page. All right, and again, many sites are still done like this. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing it. Now, they do mention here that getting anything published on the web means uploading HTML documents from your computer to a web server. All right. Now, it says those days are long, long gone. Now, that's not really true, because even on dynamic sites, many are still made that way. If that wasn't the case, there would be no reason for us to be teaching the 152, 157 class, website development, XHTML, CSS, and the 152, 119 learning to program with JavaScript classes. But I do agree, today most websites are dynamic. They use a content management system to make it easier, more intuitive as far as being able to change things. All right. So you can build a CMS by yourself from scratch, or you can use a CMS such as Joomla that you can expand and customize, and that's what we'll be talking about, especially starting in the next chapter. All right. As the author says here, technically there are no web pages. So if I get into Joomla, and I'm not right now, but if you give me a second, I will. So if I get into Joomla, what you are going to find is literally everything for that entire website that we built is contained inside of the database, all right, and the different tables in the database, and the different records within those tables, and the different fields within those records, within those tables, within that database. So if I start up XAMPP, you know the drill by now. All right, and I come in here. http://localhost/ where do we put this now? I think it was Joomla 336. Okay. Alright, I'll have to look. I don't remember what I called it, so let's quickly search inside of htdocs and find out. So it's Joomla 2, and that's what it was inside of there. Okay. And up again, http://localhost Joomla 2, Joomla 2 slash, and again, there's our home page. So what I'm telling you is everything that you see inside of there, hopefully it's going to come up. I don't know what the everything you should be seeing inside of there is all located inside of here. All right, and what is that? That's the database Joomla 2. All right, that's where I drag the folder Joomla _ 3.3.6. So that's literally where everything for this site is contained. And we're going to look a little bit at this site as we go through the chapter here. All right, as soon as your visitor clicks on a link, you send a request to Joomla to assemble bits and pieces to present a full web page. All right, and what it shows depends on how you set it up. When creating websites that you have designed, would be the exact same page the site visitor would see. So in other words, even though we're using a CMS rather than straight HTML, the look and feel will be pretty much the same. The author equates here on page 41 Joomla to being a coffee machine, where if you've got different buttons here, that one might be cappuccino, one might be regular coffee, iced coffee, mocha, and different kinds of teas or whatever, that the way that you come in there and you customize what you want, and that's what the author says here. As the site visitor clicks on a link, the mighty machine gathers whatever combination of content parts is needed from the database, and it pours the output onto your web page. Now, some of this stuff that's discussed here on page 42 was already mentioned previously, talking about some of the benefits of actually using a CMS. All right? And probably the key one is right here. I know that Amanda in the class hopefully is going to be working on modifying the website for the Noah's Ark animal sanctuary in Rockford. And the thing about that site is it's been created with just straight HTML, and the people who are working on the site, when I say working on it, I should say the people who maintain the site, the people who work at the actual animal sanctuary, have no computer skills almost whatsoever, especially no programming skills. So we might see if we can redo this and recreate the site, doing it all in Joomla. All right, but again, the idea is not what you can have on a Joomla website, it's what can't you have. So as the author mentions, you've got the power, you determine what content blocks Joomla packs together and how they're laid out. All of this is made possible by Joomla's built-in PHP wizardry, so it is using PHP behind the scenes. Again, if I go back here just to show you this, if I go back here and I look in here, all right, so I'm here, and if I do a search in here for star.php, all right, notice there's a few PHP files in there. I don't know how many there are, but there's quite a few. All right, and that's what's setting all of this stuff up for us in the background. So, a web page in Joomla basically consists of three parts displayed in the following screenshots, those being the base layout, the content, and as many function blocks as you like. So again, the main content area shown up here. All right. In here, you've got your main content block. So again, that's your base layout up here. Your main content block shown here. And then on the next page, all right, down toward the bottom, really, when you think about it, this is broken up into several function blocks. All right, there's a block, there's a block, there's a block, etc. So, probably didn't explain that all that well, so let's see what the author has to say. The base layout, as the author says, defines the presentation of all content. How many columns you're going to have, what your background color is going to be, what your text color is going to be, what kind of graphics you're going to have, etc. Now, when we created this, since we did choose sample data, we get this. And you've already seen, too, that as we go through here, there's other stuff that's in here also. All right, so if we go to sample sites, you'll notice, again, we've got the parks, okay, and we've got, so if I back up again, there's Australian parks, and there's the fruit shop. You've seen these before when we talked about them in other classes. All that information is in here. So those of you who said, well, geez, do I have to remove all of the information I have? Well, no, you can hide stuff and show stuff on an as-needed basis. You can literally create multiple sites inside of the same Joomla database. Again, in Joomla, the base layout is defined in a template. Generally, you set the template once and forget about it. That's not exactly true. You might be tweaking it on occasion, especially the CSS, etc. that's in there. So we talk more about that in Chapter 11, which we'll get to in a couple weeks on the Retape. Part 2 is the main content area, and that's what they're showing in here. And as the author says, it contains the cold hard content. When you publish an article, that's where it'll go. In Joomla, the area is called the main body, and it appears in the middle of the page. All right, and the blocks around that main content area, such things as a login, a search box, any kind of a menu up here, any kind of a menu down here, etc. Those are put in as modules, as mentioned on the bottom of the page here. Modules can contain advanced functionality for whatever it is you want to do. You can build your own functionality, or you can grab a lot of prepackaged Joomla functionality. So, to summarize, the template functions as a frame. The main content or main body is the central and essential building block, and the modules are the blocks you add and arrange around there. All right. So, introducing the front end and the back end of the Joomla interface, starting on the bottom of page 44, and again, you've seen some of this already. This, again, is the Joomla front end. So when you look up here, home, example, etc., Joomla blog, we got the picture, Joomla beginners, upgraders, and professionals. Why am I showing you that? Sample sites Joomla. You'll notice that this has changed, so the picture that's up here has changed by default because we've got one column, and what they showed in the book here is 3 columns. We could easily change that. We'll talk about how to do stuff like that again in later chapters. About Joomla and this site. Okay, so again, if we come back in here to home, oh, I guess it does look, I wasn't on the home page. So there's that, there's Joomla, beginners, upgraders, professionals. That's our site right here. And when I go back, beginner, Joomla, beginners, upgraders, professionals, about Joomla and this site, about Joomla and this site. Okay? So you see that it hasn't really changed very much, even though they've upgraded the versions. Okay? That's the front end. The back end, on the other hand, as you know, is where the administrator works. Again, as they mentioned, Joomla is a web application. It's a software tool and stored on a web server, accessed through a browser. But in the background, you have to be able to go in there and make changes behind the scenes, so to speak. As it says here on the top of page 46, every Joomla site has a back door. They call it a staff entrance. By default, only the administrator can get logged in. What we'll see in a later chapter is that you can give other people access to that as well. So, what is the front end? It's your public face. This is a great picture they show here on the bottom of page 46. As the author says, let's take a closer look at the elements, and the main elements are shown right here. So when we take a look in element 1 there that you see on the screen, that's the search box up in the upper right hand corner. Alright, element 2, that's our top level menu. Remember, we have a top level menu here, and then we've got a couple different menus down here. We can choose to have multiple menus here, no menus here. Alright, we can have a menu here or no menu here, and this menu can be quite complex. We can have drop downs in it, etc. if we want to. Here's our header image, which we'll replace eventually. Here's the main body of our home page. Here's the breadcrumb path to show us where we currently are. Again, here's some supplementary other menus, and there's our login form. So what we should see is when we take a look at what you see in the book on page 46, and when I go back here, that's everything we should have. Again, there's our search box, there's our top menu, there's our header image, there's our main body right in here, there's our breadcrumb right here, here's our 2 different other menus right here, and there's our login form down here. As far as I can tell, it looks exactly the same. What we have right now looks exactly the same as what you see in your book on page 46. They do mention on the bottom of page 47 here in the book, in this little extra section, it says, The Learn Joomla sample data we're using in the book is the most comprehensive set of sample data, so it's the best choice as you're walking your way through it. Later we'll customize that, we'll remove certain things, etc. So what we do for most of the rest of the chapter here, as the author says, is we're going to tour the site. Alright, so we've got about 20 pages or so to go on here. So time for action. Tour the example site. Well, they said to enter the URL. I've already done that. Again, my URL looks like this because of the way that I set Joomla up, which is fine. I have absolutely no problem with the way that I set it up, but that's what I have to key in all the time. Alright, you know this because we've talked about this in different classes, that I put that in, and I have to add administrator. So let me shrink this way down again, sorry. So if I put in that, the first one, that gets me to what? The front end. And if I put in this, that gets me to the back end. That shouldn't be anything new for anyone. We did this, had been doing this for quite a bit of time. All right, so that should make sense to everyone that's watching this tape. As it says, you'll recognize the home page as displayed in the following screenshot. The main body is outlined here in the screenshot to show you that it consists of 1, 2, 3, 4 articles. And as we said, there's what we keyed in. There's our main article surrounded by 3 other articles. So it's exactly the same as what the author mentions here in the book. Okay? So I'm just going to follow the steps here. I did step 1. Step 2. On page 49 says, let's explore the layout changes on a different page. In the About Joomla menu, click on Getting Started, which is right here where the mouse is resting. It says you'll notice the main body displays just one article, which is the most common type of page content, and the article, and also the login form that you see right here is only shown on the front page. So when I click here and I choose Getting Started, again, you'll notice there's just one article. Okay, boom. And again, our login page is no longer being shown here. Now, next on page 50, they want us to come up again into the About Joomla menu, and they want us to click the link that says Using Joomla. All right, and once we do that, they want us to click the sub-menu on Using Extensions. Again, this is from page 50 in the book. So I've done that. And it says now in our main body area that's right here, okay, it takes you to a page where the main body starts with a short introduction here. And below it is a list of links or subcategories, those meaning components, modules, and templates. So we can click on any of those to go on and go on from there. You'll notice if I click on components, boom, I get to a thing in here on the different components. Alright, if I come back again, click on modules, I get to yet a different page on content modules. And finally, if I click one more time on templates, alright, talk about the different templates that are available. I probably should have done a better job of this in class because there's a lot of really good information that you can see on here. Alright, let's get back to the home page. Okay, and I'm on the What Just Happened part on the bottom of page 50. So the author says, at first sight, the Joomla website may seem overwhelming, but it's just many pages that are built around the layouts we just talked about. There's a home page, there are content pages, and there are pages in between which link those together. Alright, so the author says here, we just discovered how the main body can be combined with different modules. In the example site, the home page had the login form. On the other pages, the login form was not shown. So the author says to take a little time, when you get some time, and peruse your way around the other pages. And as mentioned here, in a dynamic website, this is on page 51 in the book, but the author mentions, you can see it in blue, in a dynamic website, all sorts and kinds of different page contents can be displayed in the main body. They mentioned to try the login link, And it says, or try out the search box. We'll get to all those as we go on. All right, so have a go. Get familiar with the other example sites. I've already shown you this a little bit, but let's go back and take a look anyway. Then when we go to sample sites here, and we go to the fruit shop, and we click welcome, what we see right there is virtually identical, all right, to what we see on page 51 in your book. You see that the way that the content is, it looks a lot different. All right, previously we had most of the stuff displayed in position 6 and 7, and I think that's position 2 over here. There's no image, there's just text, and there's color. The breadcrumbs are at the top as opposed to the bottom. Also notice, as it says, we can play with the font if we want to do that, so we can make it bigger, smaller, etc. All right, and I believe that's just the font. I don't know if all of it changes. Yeah, I guess all of it does. Okay. So the author goes through a little shtick on page 52. Don't need to read that to you or tell it to you. But again, what the author is basically saying here is it's yet a different site within your main site. All right, so you've got the About Joomla site basically with the sample data, the fruit shop, and that Australian parks also. And the author mentions here applying templates to specific menu links can give users the impression that they're exploring a separate set of websites. But as you know, as we've talked about before, you're really and truly not. All right, so let's take a look at the back end then, which is what's shown next here, starting on the bottom of page 52. And as the author mentions again, the back end is the administrative interface, which allows you to manage the site behind the scenes. All right. So they want you to go into the administrative interface. It says you've already had a short look at it, but you should see a login prompt like this when you attempt to go in. Now, when I go in here, all right, so if I come through here and grab all this stuff that I had before, open up a new window, paste it in, and put in administrator, you know the drill by now. I'm given my administrator prompt. Same thing that they show on page 53 in the book. Again, I set mine simply to admin and had it remember, which is also admin. And then we get to our back end. All right. Ideally, we get to our back end. There we go. All right, it says the interface provides all the functions you need as a site administrator. For example, adding content, changing menus, customizing layout, etc. So we just logged into the back end and we've entered the control panel. Okay? So the author says here to take a look, and again, as you found out more so than on the example pages, that when you get in here, the pages are not going to look identical. Repeating again, they are not going to look identical to the way they look in the book. Some of the stuff has been moved around, some of the stuff has been removed, other things have been added in here, etc. But the main functionality that they talk about on pages 54 and 55 are still the same. So the first thing that's mentioned here on the top is the author mentions that this is the top menu. And as mentioned, the horizontal top menu is where all the action is. Each menu gives you access to a drop-down list featuring Joomla's content tools. And if we look in here, we see the stuff that's here. Under System, as mentioned on the bottom of page 54, this allows us to set global configuration options and perform different kinds of maintenance. Users allows us to manage users, manage user rights, send mail or email to users. Menus has got our menu manager up there, which allows us to do, among other things, to add menus, remove menus, move menus around. The content, which has different things in there, such as our article manager, as you would think and guess, to administer our articles. Our category managers, where we can move, in our article manager, we can move articles around, add articles, delete articles, etc. And in our category manager, we can do the same kind of thing with categories. We can make articles featured articles, which means they'll appear on the main page when the site comes up in the front end. And we also have our media manager here, which allows us to work with images and other components. Our component manager is next, and our component manager, as it says, it's got banners, it's got contacts. Those are really about the only things that we use in here. Okay. The extension manager, which has several managers in it, including managing our extensions, our modules, our plugins, our templates, and if we were working with multiple languages. Finally, Joomla has an extensive online help system, and it's got a help system that you can also go to online. So, as mentioned, the top menu is the one you'll use over and over again. But let's look at the other things. So the sub menu and system menus, which are shown here. Sorry. Click over here, get that over here. Virtually everything that's shown up here, you're also able to get to down here. All right. As it says, it gives you quick access to the subcomponents of the current page. The menus and menu options appear here are context sensitive, meaning that depending on if I click user here and I go to user manager, for example, what changes over here? Everything. Okay, and that's what the author is talking about in there. The information panels are shown here. And again, these are also going to be context sensitive. As it says, it lists the last logged in users, popular articles, recently added articles, etc. All right, so all the stuff they mention here on page 55 is exactly what you see. The shortcut list, which is over here. Now, I haven't done much in this site, so there's not a whole lot in the shortcut list, as you'd imagine. But as it says, it displays a series of icons and hyperlinks that offer quick access. Finally, step 5, or part 5, on the very bottom of the page. As mentioned, it's very hard probably for you to see it, but it's way in the bottom left-hand corner. There's a horizontal bar that always remains visible. It's got View Site on it to the far left, which opens the website's homepage. I'm just used to always clicking up here where it says core bar or whatever you have the name of the site, but you can also click down there on View Site, which also gets you over here to show you the site, as you can see. All right. Visitors, which has information on the number of visitors currently logged in. All right. Admins, the number of users you've logged in, who's logged into the back end. I have 0 visitors and 1 admin, which is the super user. Messages, which indicates the number of unread private messages. I have none. All right. And finally, log out. So if I click that, I can get. It's another way that I can get out. All right. Some of the back-end tools as we move up. I'm on page 58 of your book. The author talks in here about understanding the back-end tools, and he mentions here that the control panel is the home page of the back end. Whatever you want to perform, you basically will do it, or at least begin to do it from here. All right. So it says that many manager pages share a lot of common features. So what they want to do is they want to go into content and go into article manager, is what they tell you to do here on page 56. And when we do this, you'll see a bunch of the things that are available to you on here. All right. Notice there's new, as mentioned, if we want to create a new article. Edit, to edit an existing article. Publish, all right, which if it says, you can have an article and it can be unpublished, which means that it's shown on the back end to the administrator, but it's not shown on the front end to any users looking at the site. Or you can publish it where it's shown to everyone. All right. So when you go and publish something, you turn it from unpublished to published. And when you click unpublish, you change it from published to unpublished. Okay. Featured shows special status of an article. Featured articles, again, are displayed on the front page or some other page that showcases featured articles. Archives, as we've talked about in other classes, is where you can archive articles, which makes them not accessible on the site itself directly unless you put in an archive link. And again, we'll go through that again in next week or so. Check-in, as it says right here, unlocks articles that are currently marked as checkout. Using the check-in option, the article is unlocked and users are able to edit it. If it's checked out, that means that somebody currently is editing it so other users can't. Trash, which is mentioned right here to send an article to the trash to actually and really delete it. Batch, which you can do a lot of different operations on. All right. And as mentioned there, when you do batch, there it is. You can select any number of articles and click on batch to do a lot of things at once. Copy things or move things from one folder to another is what you'll be using it for most often. Options to change an article's general settings, and help to, as always, to browse the online help. Again, this toolbar is content sensitive, so what you're going to notice is if we grab things and do certain things, it will change. All right. So they tell you to click on the edit button next on page 57. It says, please make a selection from the list. So let's just grab, I don't know, Blue Mountain Rainforest. All right. And we'll click on the edit button. Well, I thought I made a selection, so there we go. And I'm not going to do anything here other than to show you that, again, context sensitive, this all changed up here. All right. So we've got the save button to save it, and it keeps the current window open. Save and close, which saves and closes the current window. Save and new, which saves the current article, closes that, and brings up a brand new blank article. Save as copy to do just that. Saves the current article and leaves the current screen. All right, and allows you to edit a copy that you now have on the screen. Close to close it without making any changes. All right. Versions, so if you are working, again, I believe it's with different versions of an article. And then finally the help. And a good point the author makes here on the bottom of page 57 in the book, and I've said this in class before, it's just stuff that makes sense. And that is, as I catch my way back up here, clicking on the save button every now and then when writing a long article will ensure that your contents are saved. You can lose all the unsaved, all right, if you've been working on it, for more than 15 minutes. And we'll talk about later how you can change that option. If you remember, we did that as a class earlier. All right, so I'm up to page 58. About 9 more pages left in the chapter. Getting your feet wet. The author says, we've had a first look at the control panel. You're probably curious to try it out and see how it works. The author says, I'll test your patience a little more. First, we have to make more sense out of the control panel to find out what you really need to know. So the author starts mentioning here on the middle to bottom of page 58 3 different types of back-end tasks. Again, remember, back-end is equated with working with the administrative panel. So as mentioned, roughly the 7 options in the control panel consist of 3 clusters. Some you'll use often, some you'll use now and then, all right, some you'll very rarely, if ever, use. If you really understand Joomla and you've been working with it for a while, chances are, for example, with a help, you won't use it very often, unless you really get stuck with something. All right. So as it says, let's try out an example of each one of these. Some content management stuff, some extension stuff, and some site management stuff. All right. Content management example. Let's create some content. It's fine to have an example site filled with dummy content, but if you want to make your mark, you'll probably want to create some of your own content. So that's what we do starting on page 59. All right, so let me jump back into our site. And I'm just following the steps on pages 59 and 60. All right, so the author says navigate over to content. So let's close this. So let's navigate over to content, article manager. All right. So content, article manager. All right, or if we're back here at system, there's article manager right here. All right, I don't know why, but I just tend to navigate over to here and do a content article manager from here. I just always have done it that way. Maybe you're just the opposite. In the toolbar, click on the new button. Again, as they say, it's the green one with a plus sign. We already know that. All right, in the article manager, add new article screen. They want us to fill out a screenshot and put in a title. They want this called My First Article. All right, and they tell you, for example, again, we can go out to lipsum.com, and they want us to put some information in here. So I'm just gonna grab a paragraph. In fact, I'm just gonna grab a sentence or two. They actually tell you to type something in. I don't feel like it, so I'm gonna copy that. Go back over to here, paste it in, and I've got my information. All right. So I've added some article text. It says leave the category drop-down box as is. It's okay to have an article assigned to the sample data category, which is right here. All right. We'll again work out and do some other stuff later. So make sure that the status is set to published, and you can see that it is. Set the featured equal to yes, which it's not, so it now is. Click on the Save button, and click on View Site. All right, down here in the lower left-hand corner. And there's my first article. Okay, so I've replaced the default article with my new article. And that's what the author mentions here on the bottom of page 60 in your book. Again, what they show right here is what I did right here, except I just grabbed something from lipsum.com. Okay? You'll notice too, all these are hyperlinked. Okay. Jumping back then, the bottom of page 60 in the book. In a few steps, you've created and published brand new content. By choosing the featured option, you made sure the article text is shown on the home page, but we're going to do a lot of other stuff. Okay. All right, extension management example, adding a module. We just added an article to the site, but as mentioned, in Joomla, you can also easily add other types of content. One example of an extension at work is the login form block on the home page. Extensions is mentioned here on page 61. They're separate additions to Joomla. You can download them from the web and add them to your installation in just a few clicks. Joomla has almost an unlimited number of extensions, and they're extendable, meaning you can bring one in and you can make changes to it on an as-needed or as-desired basis. By default, some extensions are included in the default installation, and we'll activate one of those in just a minute. The most read articles module, which will add a little block or module that lists the most popular items. All right, so they mention here, going back to the site, it says you are logged in to the back end of the site. So let me remove some of this stuff. Okay, so let me get back into the back end. So I'm here. All right, so we can save and close right here. In fact, we can just close. Okay. Now, if we just close, my stuff is still here. Okay. We come back into here, and I go back. Again, I just click that bar to go back to my system page. I want to navigate over to Extensions, Module Manager, and they want us to click New. Again, we could have also done from the side here. All right, so someplace over here, there's the Module Manager. But I just, again, do Extensions, Module Manager. All right, and they want us to click New. It says once we do that, a list of available types is shown here. And as you notice, it's an alphabetized list. So as we peruse our way down, turning up to page 62, we want to click on the name of the module that we want to add, which is most read content. You know, when you're going through these, take the time to read the stuff that's in here too. It's very short, and you'll notice when we click here, all right, you can, if you don't like it, it's also shown over here. All right, so I'm going to click on there. It says change the details as follows. They wanted to change the title here to popular. Position, they want us to select right position 7 down here. And we're at ProStar. There's right position 7. All right. And they say click on the menu assignment tab. So in other words, they want us to know what menu we're assigning this to. All right. They say select module assignment. Okay, and here, rather than on all pages, we only want it on the pages selected. By default, all pages are selected. First click select none. So they're all unselected. Okay. And it says, again, it says also click on the minus sign to the left of Australian parks and fruit parks. Okay. You can see how far down this goes when we take a look at it. All right, Alright, so we click there and we click there. Okay, because we don't care about that stuff. Now the main menu items, as it says, becomes a lot more viewable. So up here we've got the About Joomla. Okay, and if we click on that also, now we see all of our main menu stuff. Alright, to find the main menu items we're looking for, click on the minus sign on the left hand side of About Joomla. We just did that. Just below the main menu heading, select the home link. The way that the module will appear on the page will be only there. It says you can leave all the other settings unchanged and click Save. Now we're told to click to view the site. And there's Popular. Alright, so we've just added that. Sample sites, Australian parks, fruit shop, typography, and using Joomla. Alright, that was not there previously. So a new block was just displayed on the home page. It's been dynamically populated with hyperlinks pointed to the 5 most read articles. You can set it once and forget it, and it should be updated for you as what you read and peruse and go through the site changes. So as mentioned on the bottom of page 63, there's no need for manual maintenance. When other articles become more popular, Joomla will automatically update the list. All right. So jumping back to the book here on the top of page 64. Extensions can be easily switched on and off. By switching it off, you don't delete it. All right, it says the extension and all of the settings you've chosen for it remain available, but they're not visible to the site visitor. And then to make the module block containing the most read articles invisible, go back to the extension manager, click on the name, which is Popular, change the published back to unpublished. Let's go ahead and do that. All right, so we'll go back into the back end again. All right, and where we want to go back in here, let's save and close. So let's go to the module manager. Extensions module manager. All right, and it says click on the name of the newly created Popular that should be in here. There it is. All right, and it says click on the name and change the published to unpublished. Alright, once we do that and we go back here, you notice that the Popular is now gone. Okay. Alright, just a couple more things. We want to set this Joomla preference. We're on page 64 and 66 will end the chapter, so I'm just going to finish that up right now. As mentioned here, when browsing the Joomla backend, you may have noticed after a certain amount of time, Joomla asks you to log in again. Let's change that right now. So we'll change the session lifetime by going through the 4 steps that are shown on the bottom of page 64 and the top of page 65. So let's go back into the site and do that right now. So let's get back into the administrative side. I'm in where I am right here. I want to close this. All right, so I'm just going to go back up again, and I want to click on my regular menu here. Okay. Then from the control panel, I want to navigate to System, Global Configuration. Again, there's a flyout over here that we could have used also. Notice, as they mentioned, it's divided into several sections: Site, System, Server, Permissions, and Text Filters. Okay. And what we want is to click on the System tab that's right here. Step 3 on the top of page 65 says on the System page, scroll down until you see the System Settings. And there they are right here in the Session Setting heading. We want to change the system lifetime, which currently exists at 15, and I'm just going to change it to 60. They tell you to do it in 45 in the book. All right, I'm going to click then Save, and nothing visible changes on the site. It looks the same, except now it should wait 60 seconds before it logs me out. All right. So they tell you in here that we've made a change as administrator to make it so now for me 50 or 60 rather, and in the book 45 seconds before you get prompted to log in again. There are other global configure options, but when you're first starting out, it's probably best not to dink with them too much. We shouldn't touch the server settings and the database options unless you really know what you're doing. And some of the other settings we'll go through as we go through the book. All right, so in the next chapter, we'll go back over chapter 4 in here, which is building that site in an hour. All right, back at you next week. Until then.